안녕하세요, 여러분. 제 이름은 디바예요. Hi everyone, my name is Diva. Welcome back to my channel. And today we're kicking off with continuing our lesson that we learned last time. Previously we learned vowels in Korean, our base vowels. And today we're continuing on with that and learning compound vowels. Now this will use some old information from our base vowels as well as some new ones. So be sure to take extra notes today as we continue on in our Korean Hangul journey. Again, Hangul is how you say the Korean alphabet. That is Hangul. Something I wanted to do last time that I completely did not do or remember to do was actually show you the stroke orders of those characters with my own handwriting. So in this video, you are actually going to see that along with the pronunciation. You are going to see a small video of me actually writing the stroke order so you can write along with me, because it's a lot easier to see it in place instead of hearing how the stroke order works. I'm still going to explain the stroke order, but you are also going to see an actual live then, but not live now, remake of the actual order it should go in. And before we get into it, I do just want to say two things. One, in the previous video, I also mentioned that I was going to be using a character in front of the vowels. We are not going to learn about that character this time. It's perfectly fine that I didn't use it for learning purposes, but you are going to see that in the future videos. So disregard that. But my second point is, if you are feeling overwhelmed already, it's okay to take a break and come back when you're ready. Don't rush yourself. You really need to pace yourself when learning Korean because it's a lot of information. Even just learning the vowels, it's a lot for someone learning a foreign language. So be kind to yourself on this journey and take the time you need to. If you rush it, it's not going to be as fun or fulfilling or have long-lasting effects like you want it to. So just take each lesson at your own pace. They're always here for you, unless I disappear, but that's not happening, I promise. So just be kind to yourself and be patient with yourself. And me. 그럼 시작할까요? I said, 그럼 시작할까요? Which is, then shall we get started? 네. Not you. 네, 선생님. Yes, teacher. Okay. It's time to move on to our next portion of vowels, compound vowels. These can stump a lot of beginners because of how they sound, and again, people tend to put way too much thought into it. Just make sure you follow along and repeat after me out loud. I know it may sound funny, but if you don't say it out loud, how could you know if you're saying it right? Diva tip: when you go to read these sounds, just let the sounds flow instead of trying to pronounce each individual sound. Let's quickly review what we learned last time. No quiz, just review. Ah, ya, o, yo, o, yo, u, you, e. Great, let's get started. The first vowel we're diving into is pretty simple. It looks pretty much like an H, but it's actually pronounced as A. Your first line will be on the left, going top to bottom. Create a line in the middle from left to right, and finish it off with another line on the right, going top to bottom. This sound is similar to the sound that you get in the word day, or any word ending in AY. Make sure your mouth is nice and wide for this one. A. For this next vowel, you want to start on the left side with a line going top to bottom. Your next stroke will be towards the top, going left to right, then towards the bottom, creating another line from left to right. Lastly, draw a line on the right-hand side from top to bottom to finish it off. This looks familiar. That's right, it's the same vowel we just learned. Much like our base vowels, what happened when we added another line? It gave it a Y sound. The same happens here. It turns into yay, like you're literally saying yay. Again, keeping that mouth nice and wide. Yay, yay. Next is like you're drawing A, but this time adding an additional line on the right-hand side from top to bottom. For this sound, your mouth isn't going to be quite as wide as A. Instead, think of the name Seth. the short eh sound. I'll try pronouncing it a few times and you follow along. Eh, eh. Now, please make sure to listen to my example for the difference between eh and eh. It might be a little hard to pick up at first, but the more you practice, the more you'll hear the difference. Eh, 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 eh. How about adding a second line? This is drawn the same way, just a second line gets added to the bottom. What sound will this now make? Yeah. Again, your mouth doesn't need to be as wide for a, yeah. It can sound like yesterday. Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear the difference between this and our other vowel? Yeah. 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 Moving on, we have our next sound, which is made up of two vowels we've already learned. We have our first combo, which is oo and ah. Now, if you're not used to blending these sounds, you might be forced to say oo ah, oo ah. However, that's not the sound. A tip I have for you here and for our next few is to allow yourself to melt the two sounds together into one. Try not to separate them. Let them become one, and you might notice that you find yourself making a slight W sound. Instead of ooh ah, let's try to say it a little faster each time and blend the sounds. Ooh ah, ooh ah, ooh ah, wah, wah, wah. This is wah, like Waluigi. Or just like the word watch, wah. The next compound we're going to try is a combination of a base vowel and a new vowel we've already learned. You may have heard this before when watching dramas. This is o and e, but it's not oe, but we want to mush the sound together. Slowly we'll start to hear that W sound. Oe, 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 we, we. You can think of this sound like way. Please note that this next sound is going to be a special case. Make a note however you need to and pay attention. This is one that you'll just need to accept as it is. It's one of those because I said so. No, but it's this way, so it's kind of like you'll have to accept it. This is O and E. You might think at first glance this is we. However, this is not the case. This is one that is a bit of an abnormal pronunciation compared to how it looks. This is actually we. You're going to hear this in words like 최송해요, 최, we. We've used a similar example before, but think of the word way or wait, that we sound. Chwe, we. Our next vowels will be back to normal. Now we have u and all, not uo, but wo, like the vowel sounds in the word quote. Wo, wo, quote, quote, wo, wo. Let's try it one more time. Wo. Moving on is u and e. Now this one actually sounds like how it looks too. This is we. Yes, the same sound we learned 2 vowels ago. If you're wondering how to distinguish the sounds, they sound exactly alike. How will I know which one someone is using? Well, that all depends on the words and the vocabulary being used. You can rely on the context of the conversation. Much like English, you don't really have to think about the spelling when someone is speaking. Just make sure you know the difference when reading and writing. Nearing the end, we have u and e. Not we, but we, like in the word wean or weep. We. Lastly, we have u and e. This is one a lot of beginners struggle with because it almost feels unnatural to make this sound. I like to help my past students by using this example. Who is this? If you're not familiar with this guy, this is Luigi. Why am I using him? Let's break down his name. Luigi. Say his name slowly. Luigi. Now let's take out G. Louis. Ui. Ui. This is pronounced ui. Give it a try. Ui. Ui. Ready for some practice? Don't worry, I won't quiz you. Let's just take this nice and easy. E. Ye. E. Ye. U and a make wa. U and e make we. O and e make we. U and o make wo. U and e make we. U and e make we. U and e make ui. Great job.